I'm so glad you found my channel, Sweet Uniquities, where everything I do here is always sweet and custom for an event, making it a true uniquity. To see how I turned this logo into this cupcake topper, keep watching. And maybe in the process we'll figure out how to turn my voice back to normal too. So let's jump into today's project. The first thing that I did was I decreased the size of my design to make sure that it would be the right size I wanted for my cupcake topper. Then I washed my hands, I washed and disinfected my work area really well, and I added some Tylose or CMC powder to my white fondant and worked it in. I rolled it out and I can see now that it's rolled and cut out that it will fit onto my topper. So it's very important that when you're working with multiple shades of fondant that you start with the lightest, or that's how I like to do it, and then build up to the deepest. I feel that sometimes if you start with the black first, despite your best efforts, sometimes there's some transfer of that color onto the white, and I don't want to not have pure white on this project. So start with the white. The next thing I will do will be the turquoise, and then the final part of this will be rolling out the black and doing the black designs. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to do was roll out my my white fondant pretty thin, and I'm using a Jem, what do they call it? This is a strip cutter number 3, and sometimes I will cut my own lines, but I really wanted these to all be equal. So if you're going to do a project where you're doing a lot of lines or stripes, like something plaid, I really recommend getting some type of a cutter. They have them in lots of different widths so that you can have, whatever you're looking for. But as you can see here, I have a perfect line. Okay, so I'm going to finish and get these added to the base here, and we'll move on to the turquoise. For this project, I went ahead and just purchased the black and the turquoise fondant already colored, just to save time. But when I was doing a lot of toppers, I would make my own fondant, and then I would color it whatever color I wanted. I wanted you to see, this is brand new, and it is very difficult. I got this at Michael's. It is difficult to get out of the container, so be careful with that. But once you take it out and start working with it and massaging it, it will soften up. So I wanted you to see that. So if you purchased some and you didn't know what to expect, that's kind of normal for that little pod to be like that. So if there's any real crusty parts, I say just kind of pinch them off and toss them, because if they're really super crusty, you can't really ever get that out. But it is kind of hard, but just the warmth of your hands, which is kind of funny because my hands are always cold, will soften it up, and I'll start kind of working it in, and then I'll add a little bit of Tylose to it. Now I'm ready to cut my turquoise top of the house. And so I want all of this to be kind of, the same height so that it's flush together, So I put one of my white strips against my turquoise, and I can kind of feel, that it's the right. Like up here, it's too thick. So if I needed that part, I would, roll that down a little bit. But this here, it feels like it's the same height as the strip. So I'm going to cut out the top of the house, and then I will do the black details. I'm going to use I'm going to use one of my cutters. So I'm going to cut it across. There's that. And then based on the height, or the length rather, of the design, I'm going to do that. So now I have them, and they're all the same. They're all the same length. Okay, so here is the beginning before we paint it, and I think it looks really good. The color on this is not the shade that her actual logo is. Her logo is more turquoise. So I'm really excited to finish this project. I think it's starting to look really great. So
Currently in the cake decorating world, custom blends of sprinkles are very, very popular. If you follow Instagram, if you follow any cake blogs, they're doing a lot of custom blends, and some people out there make some really creative, unique, blends. I have a lot of sprinkles because I have a problem with sprinkles. So I always pick them up post-season. These are some I got last year after Christmas. They have little snowmen in them. So I'll just take the snowmen out, and I think it will be a beautiful addition to my confetti sprinkle. So right now I have some 4mm sugar pearls. I also have some larger ones. I don't know what the millimeter is on them, but they're definitely larger, so they're great. I use those a lot for eyes and such. Then I have some more 4mm in the turquoise. Then these also came with the Christmas sprinkles last year for winter. It's got like a blackish gray pearl, there's white, and then there's the turquoise. So I thought that would be perfect for her logo. So just sprinkle some of those in there. And then I'm going to take the snowmen out, and we'll be left with the little jimmies. And that will be a nice visual difference. The key is having different sizes, different textures in your blends so that you have something visually interesting.
So the key to my recreating this logo today is with the use of a KopyKake, and we'll talk more about that in another video. It is basically a projector. But I'm using, for the paint, I'm using airbrush colors. They're already thinned down, so you don't have to add vodka or lemon extract to them to paint with. We'll talk more about that in another video. I do use very fine-tipped paintbrushes to get the little intricate details, and that came from Amazon. It's a wonderful paintbrush set, and I will link that down below. I always make a few extra hardened pieces of fondant to practice on, but I generally only make one final piece to do the project on. So far I've not got burned on that, but it's always a little scary to only have one topper to truly make perfect. But with a few attempts, I usually can get it, pretty good. This design came about from a friend named Angela. She's a realtor in South Jersey, and her boss, actually, Nancy Kowalik Group in Mullica Hill, has a beautiful logo, and that's the logo I'm recreating today. And Angela had said, I have a project for you, a challenge. I'm like, okay, bring it on. And then she said, I want you to recreate Nancy's logo for her birthday on a cupcake topper. And at first I was like, okay, no problem. And then she left, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because I didn't want to mess it up. It's such a beautiful logo, and I wanted to do it justice. So I think the end product turned out really, really beautiful, and I'm hopeful that she was pleased with it. But basically, I'm just practicing here with the KopyKake, projection. I'm not great with KopyKake. I have a feeling that I could probably use some lessons. I need to watch some YouTube videos on it. But there are some amazing people who do some great things with KopyKake. Most of your really wonderful, talented cookie artists with all the intricate details are using some type of a projector to get the details. There are other ways to do it as well, but KopyKake has been my solution to some of the requests that I have. You can also use colored printers with edible ink, and then you can also order like sheets off of Etsy from different crafters that do make different types of transfers for fondant and cookies. But I have the KopyKake and haven't ever invested in any of those other items. It is an expensive investment, but for me it has been the solution to a lot of nightmares that would have happened if I wouldn't have had it. So let me know if you have questions about it, or if you would like to see more about KopyKake, and I can sure do some future videos on that. So here I am absolutely freaking
out because I'm starting the actual project. So I have to do my little, Rocky theme song in my mind. That's what's playing right now in my head, because I'm trying to tell myself that I can do this. So I'm going to paint the actual logo on the actual topper. I did not show me using edible glue to glue down all of the fondant pieces. I did dry these pieces flat on top of the original piece of fondant, and so they stick pretty well on their own, but there was a couple of pieces that were a little loose, so I did use some edible glue. I do make my own with Tylose powder and water, cold water, and I'll show you how to do that in another video, but here I'm just doing the final topper. And here is the result of the final cupcake topper. I think it is so beautiful. I'm so pleased with how it turned out. The colors, the confetti sprinkles that I made, the painting, I just think it turned out so great. So have a sweet and unique day. Please consider subscribing and liking, and I'll see you on the next video.